Story 1. The Drowned Girl. Growing up near Crescent Lake, I'd always heard the stories of the drowned girl. They said she haunted the lake, a vengeful spirit who dragged anyone foolish enough to swim after dark to a watery grave. I never believed the tales, but my friends did. Every summer, they'd dare each other to swim across the lake at midnight, but no one ever had the guts to do it. This year, I decided to prove them all wrong. On the night of the dare, the lake was eerily calm. The full moon cast a silvery glow on the water, making it look almost inviting. My friends watched from the shore, their faces a mix of anticipation and fear. I took a deep breath and waded in, the cold water sending a shiver up my spine. The first few strokes were easy. The water was clear, and I could see the sandy bottom beneath me. But as I got further from shore, the water grew darker, the bottom disappearing into an inky abyss. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. Halfway across, I started to feel uneasy. The water seemed to pull at me, as if invisible hands were tugging me down. I stopped, treading water, and looked around. That's when I saw her. A pale face floated just below the surface, eyes wide open and staring. Her hair billowed around her like dark seaweed, and her mouth was twisted in a silent scream. I froze, my heart pounding. It couldn't be real. The drowned girl was just a story, a legend to scare kids. But then she moved. Her hand shot out of the water, grasping my ankle with a grip like iron. I screamed, kicking frantically, but her grip only tightened. She began to pull me down, her eyes never leaving mine. The water closed over my head, and I struggled, thrashing wildly. My lungs burned, and black spots danced before my eyes. Just when I thought I would pass out, I felt her grip loosen. With a desperate kick, I broke free and swam for the surface. Gasping for air, I made it back to the shore, collapsing at my friends' feet. They helped me up, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear. "What happened?" one of them asked, but I couldn't speak. I just stared at the dark, still water. I never swam in Crescent Lake again. The legend of the drowned girl was no mere story. She was real, and she was waiting for her next victim. I had seen her face, felt her touch, and I knew she would never rest until she claimed another soul. Story 2. The Shadow in the Basement. When my grandmother passed away, I inherited her old house. It was a beautiful, albeit run-down Victorian home on the outskirts of town. I decided to move in and fix it up, hoping to preserve a piece of family history. The first few weeks were uneventful, filled with cleaning and minor repairs. But then I discovered the basement. It was hidden behind a heavy wooden door in the pantry, a place I hadn't thought to look until I needed more storage space. The stairs creaked ominously as I descended, my flashlight beam cutting through the thick dust that hung in the air. The basement was cluttered with old furniture, boxes of forgotten belongings, and a faint, musty smell. I spent hours sorting through the mess, finding little of value but plenty of memories. Just as I was about to call it a day, I noticed a small wooden box tucked away in a corner. It was intricately carved and locked with a rusty padlock. Curiosity got the better of me, and I pried it open with a crowbar. Inside were old photographs, letters, and a small leather-bound journal. The photos were of my grandmother as a young woman, smiling with friends and family. The letters were love notes from my grandfather. But the journal was different. It was filled with strange symbols and unsettling drawings of shadowy figures. As I flipped through the pages, I felt a chill in the air. The shadows in the basement seemed to grow darker, more substantial. I heard a faint whisper, barely audible, but definitely there. "Leave," it said. I jumped, dropping the journal. My flashlight flickered, and for a moment, I thought I saw a figure standing in the corner, watching me. It was tall and thin, with glowing eyes that bored into mine. I blinked, and it was gone. I grabbed the journal and ran upstairs, slamming the basement door behind me. My heart raced, and my mind spun with fear and confusion. What had I seen? And what was in that journal? Over the next few days, I tried to make sense of it all. I researched the symbols and found they were linked to ancient rituals meant to summon and bind spirits. My grandmother had been involved in something dark, something dangerous. The whispers continued, growing louder each night. I would wake up to see shadows moving in the corners of my room, hear footsteps in the hallway. The figure from the basement appeared more frequently, always watching, always waiting. Desperate for answers, I contacted a paranormal investigator. When she arrived, she examined the journal in the basement. Her face grew pale as she read through the pages. "Your grandmother summoned something," she said, her voice trembling, "and it's still here." We performed a cleansing ritual, hoping to banish the spirit. The air grew heavy, and the shadows writhed as if in pain. The figure appeared one last time, its eyes burning with anger. And then, with a final, agonized scream, it vanished. The house felt lighter afterward, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. But I could never forget the terror of those nights. The shadow in the basement had been real, a malevolent presence summoned by my grandmother. I had survived its wrath, but the memory of its glowing eyes would haunt me forever. Story 3. The Watcher at the Window. When I first moved into the old farmhouse, I thought it was a dream come true. The picturesque countryside, the charming rustic architecture, and the tranquility were exactly what I needed after years of city living. But it wasn't long before I realized something was very wrong. The first night, I woke to a strange feeling, as if someone was watching me. I shrugged it off as nerves and went back to sleep. The next night, the feeling returned, stronger this time. I got up and checked all the windows and doors, but everything was locked. There was no one there. A week later, I began to notice things moving around the house. Items I knew I had left in one place would appear in another. Doors I had closed would be open when I returned. It was unsettling, but I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I was just forgetful in my new surroundings. Then came the scratching. It started as a faint noise, barely audible, but grew louder each night. It seemed to come from the walls, the floor, the ceiling, everywhere at once. I searched for signs of animals or pests, but found nothing. One particularly stormy night, the scratching was so loud it woke me from a deep sleep. I grabbed a flashlight and followed the sound to the living room. As I shone the light around, my heart stopped. In the window, I saw a face. It was pale and gaunt, with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. It stared at me, unblinking, as the rain lashed against the glass. I screamed, dropping the flashlight, and the face disappeared. I ran outside, braving the storm, but found no trace of anyone. Terrified, I decided to leave the house and stay with a friend in town. As I packed, I found an old photograph tucked away in a drawer. It was of the previous owner, a man named Samuel. His eyes were unmistakable, hollow, piercing. He had died in the house 5 years ago, under mysterious circumstances. I showed the photo to my friend, who told me that Samuel had been obsessed with the idea that something was watching him, something that lived in the walls of the house. He had tried to uncover it, scratching at the walls until his fingers bled. Determined to uncover the truth, I returned to the farmhouse with my friend. We searched every inch of the house but found nothing. As we were about to give up, my friend noticed a loose floorboard in the living room. We pried it up, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a journal filled with Samuel's ramblings about the Watcher. He described it as a malevolent spirit, bound to the house, feeding off the fear of its occupants. The last entry was chilling. It watches me from the window. I can feel its eyes on me. Always. Just then, the scratching started again, louder than ever. My friend and I looked at each other, fear in our eyes. We ran from the house, never looking back. I sold the farmhouse soon after, unable to live with the constant fear. The new owners seemed happy, unaware of the watcher's presence. I can only hope they never see the face at the window, never hear the scratching in the walls. But sometimes, late at night, I still feel those hollow eyes watching me, no matter where I go. And I wonder if I'll ever truly escape the watcher at the window.